Greetings. This is Brother Eli. Welcome to Bible Truth Revealed. This channel is dedicated to exposing the lies of Christianity and revealing biblical truth. On this channel, we worship and serve the Most High God of Israel only. This teaching is entitled, Thou Shalt Not Steal. That is, thou shalt not steal. We live in a world where stealing is so commonplace that it is even celebrated in movies and video games. Some people think nothing of stealing other people's property, identity, time, ideas, you name it, they'll steal it. In this teaching, we will explore the Holy Scriptures, which Christians call the Old Testament, to learn why we must not steal and what will happen to those thieves who refuse to repent. We will cover the following. 1. The penalty for stealing livestock. 2. The penalty for stealing an Israelite. 3. Can we steal if we are hungry? 4. The future judgment of thieves. 5. What should we do if we are guilty of stealing? And 6. How the world was stolen by the children of Lucifer. I will be reading from the Brenton Septuagint translation. Exodus chapter 20, verse 14 in the Septuagint is verse 15 in the KJV. So I'm reading Exodus chapter 20, verse 14 in the Septuagint, and it says, Thou shalt not steal. This is one of the 10 commandments, and it means that we must not take things that do not belong to us. It really is that simple. Psalm chapter 61 verse 11 in the Septuagint is chapter 62 verse 10 in the KJV. Psalm chapter 61 verse 11 says, Trust not in unrighteousness, and lust not after robberies. If wealth should flow in, set not your heart upon it. So, trust not in unrighteousness, and lust not after robberies. Do not desire riches to the point that you are willing to rob someone to get them. That's all that means. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the legal definition of robbery is the unlawful taking away of personal property from a person by violence or by threat of violence that causes fear. We're not supposed to steal, and we're not supposed to rob. The decision to commit robbery usually starts with covetousness. This is a desire to have something because someone else has it. One of the 10 commandments states, Thou shalt not covet. If we avoid the sin of covetousness, we can also avoid committing robberies. To better understand the dangers of covetousness, please listen to my teaching entitled, Should We Get Rich or Die Trying? That is, should we get rich or die trying? Leviticus chapter 19, verse 13. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 13 says, Thou shalt not injure thy neighbor, neither do thou rob him, neither shall the wages of thy hireling remain with thee until the morning. We must not do anything that deprives our brethren of what is rightfully theirs. Even if someone works for us, we must pay them as soon as the job is done. We must not keep back their wages for any longer than necessary. For example, if we have a mutual agreement to pay our employees at the end of the week or the end of the month, we must keep our end of the bargain. When we pay our employees on time, we also have a right to expect them to complete their work on time. So let's look at the penalty for stealing livestock. Ancient Israel was an agricultural society, and the Most High gave laws to discourage the people from stealing one another's livestock. Exodus chapter 21 verse 37 in the Septuagint is chapter 22 verse 1 in the KJV. So I'm reading Exodus chapter 21 verse 37 in the Septuagint, and it reads thus: "And if one steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall pay 5 calves for a calf and 4 sheep for a sheep." This law served as a deterrent to would-be thieves. It certainly isn't worth it to steal from someone if you could end up being forced to pay 4 or 5 times the value of what you stole. So if you stole someone's ox or sheep and you killed it or you sold it, you would have to pay 4 or 5 times the value of what you stole. Exodus chapter 22 verses 1 to 3 and verses 6 to 8 are found in the same chapter, but verses 2 to 4 and 7 to 9 in the KJV. It says, "And if the thief be found in the breach made by himself, and be smitten and die, there shall not be blood shed for him. But if the sun be risen upon him, he is guilty. He shall die instead. And if a thief have nothing, let him be sold in compensation for what he has stolen. And if the thing stolen be left, and be in his hand alive, whether ox or sheep, he shall restore them twofold." So if a thief breaks into a person's property to steal by night when it is dark, and that thief gets killed, the person that killed the thief would not be held accountable. That person would not be guilty of murder. But if the sun be risen upon him, meaning if it is light, if it's obvious who this person is and what this person is up to, and you kill them, then it will be considered murder. Why? Because when it was dark, you could not see. Anything can happen. But when it's in the light and you chose to kill your brother, you will pay the penalty for killing your brother, even though your brother is a thief. And if the thief has nothing to give to compensate for what he has stolen, he himself would be sold. So there was no benefit for poor people to steal, because if they were caught, naturally they had nothing to give, and they would be sold to repay what they've stolen. And if the thing stolen be left, and be in his hand alive. So this is the difference between the previous verses and this verse. In the first instance, the thing was killed and or sold. In this instance, it's still alive and he still has it. Whether it's an ox or a sheep, he shall restore them twofold. So if he killed and sold them, he would restore 4 to 5-fold, which is 4 to 5 times the value of what he stole. But if they're still alive and still with him, he will restore double. And if he was unable to pay, he will be sold so that the person he stole from could be compensated. Verse 6. "And if anyone give to his neighbor money or goods to keep, and they be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, he shall repay double." There was always a requirement to repay more than what you stole. This is why people would avoid stealing, because if you went to steal something and you were caught, you had to pay twice the value of that thing as a minimum. But if the thief be not found, the master of the house shall come forward before the Most High, and shall swear that surely he has not wrought wickedly in regard of any part of his neighbor's deposit, according to every injury alleged, both concerning a calf, and an ass, and a sheep, and a garment, and every alleged loss, whatsoever in fact it may be. The judgment of both shall proceed before the Most High. And he that is convicted by the Most High shall repay to his neighbor double. So if you gave something to someone to keep, and that thing was stolen from that person, if the thief was found, he would pay double. But if the thief was not found, the person you gave it to would come before the Most High and swear that they genuinely do not know what happened to the thing that you gave them to hold. And the Most High would be the one who judged between you and that person. And if it turns out that the person you gave it to actually stole it, which means that they took it or kept it without your consent, with no intention of returning it, the judgment is that that person would have to repay double the value of what they took. Now, the penalty for stealing an Israelite. Exodus chapter 21 verse 17 in the Septuagint, 16 in the KJV. So I'm reading Exodus chapter 21 verse 17 in the Septuagint. It says, "Whosoever shall steal one of the children of Israel and prevail over him and sell him, and he be found with him, let him certainly die." Anyone that stole an Israelite, if that person was found with that Israelite in his possession, that person had to be put to death. Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 7 says the same thing. "And if a man should be caught stealing one of his brethren of the children of Israel, and having overcome him he should sell him, that thief shall die. So shalt thou remove that evil one from yourselves." Israelites were not supposed to kidnap their brethren and sell their brethren. That's pure evil. And the penalty for that is death. Can we steal if we are hungry? Proverbs chapter 6 verses 30 to 31. Proverbs chapter 6 verses 30 to 31 says, "It is not to be wondered at if one should be taken stealing. For he steals that when hungry he may satisfy his soul." This person is stealing because he's hungry. He wants something to eat. Don't be shocked if you see that. But if he should be taken, he shall repay sevenfold. He shall repay 7 times the value of what he stole if he is caught stealing, even though it is to satisfy his hunger, and shall deliver himself by giving all his goods. If he has to give everything that he owns in order to pay 7 times more than what he stole, that's what he had to do. The very fact that the penalty is that he had to pay 7 times the value of what he stole shows that stealing is never acceptable, not even if you are hungry. In ancient Israel, the poor were allowed to take food from the fields around them, so there was no good reason to steal. This is why the penalty for stealing was so harsh. It emphasized the seriousness of stealing and demonstrated zero tolerance for this sin. We can read about provisions for the poor in Leviticus chapter 19, verses 9 to 10. Leviticus chapter 19, verses 9 to 10 reads thus: And when you reap the harvest of your land, ye shall not complete the reaping of your field with exactness. In other words, don't take everything. When you're taking the food from your land, leave something on the land. And thou shalt not gather that which falls from thy reaping. When you're harvesting, if something drops, you leave it on the ground. Verse 10, And thou shalt not go over the gathering of thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather the remaining grapes of thy vineyard. Always leave something over on the farm. Thou shalt leave them for the poor. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am the Most High. So the Most High provided for the poor by making sure that the farmers left food on the land when they did the harvesting. They were not allowed to take everything. Again, ancient Israel was an agricultural society. There were farms everywhere, which means that those people who were poor could simply go to a farm and take what was left behind. That was not stealing. Therefore, if a poor person chose to go and steal, to take from somewhere where he was not authorized to take from, that person had no excuse, and that's why he had to repay 7 times the value of what he stole. The Most High hates stealing. He gave this law to ensure that even the poor always had food to eat. This is reiterated just a few chapters later in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 22. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 22 says, And when ye shall reap the harvest of your land, ye shall not fully reap the remainder of the harvest of your field when thou reapest, and thou shalt not gather that which falls from thy reaping. Thou shalt leave it for the poor. Thou shalt leave it for the poor and the stranger. I am the Most High. Nowadays, the poor amongst us cannot just go to a field and take food to eat. This only applied when we were in our own land. Therefore, if you are poor and you need food to eat, you should take advantage of any benefits that are provided by the government, your community, your extended family, your friends, and so forth. There's always a place where people can get food. Go to a soup kitchen. There are places to get food without having to steal. If you can do odd jobs to get some money, to eat some food, that is much better than stealing, because there's never a good excuse for stealing. Now let's move to the future judgment of thieves. Zechariah chapter 5, verses 1 to 4. Zechariah chapter 5, verses 1 to 4 reads thus: And I turned and lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, a flying sickle. And he said to me, What seest thou? And I said, I see a flying sickle, of the length of 20 cubits, and of the breadth of 10 cubits. A sickle is a tool that is used for reaping. It can also be used as a weapon. That's what the prophet Zechariah saw, a flying sickle. Now, if you're following along in the King James Version of the Christian Bible, or any other Bible that is based on the Masoretic text, it states that the prophet Zechariah saw a flying scroll, a flying roll, or a flying book rather than a flying sickle. There's a big difference between a scroll and a sickle. So why is there a difference? The lying, thieving Jewish Masoretes could not bring themselves to write that the prophet Zechariah saw a flying sickle. This is because the flying sickle represents the judgment that is to come. All liars and thieves will be put to death. It was easier for them to change the text to say that the prophet saw a flying scroll than for them to face their fear of judgment for their lying and thievery. The very next verses confirm that the flying sickle represents death. Let's keep reading. Verse 3. And he said to me, this, meaning the flying sickle, is the curse that goes forth over the face of the whole earth. For every thief shall be punished with death on this side, and every false swearer, that means a liar, shall be punished on that side. There's a popular saying, show me a liar and I'll show you a thief. People who steal constantly lie to cover their tracks. This was especially true of the Jewish Masoretes. Among other things, they stole the identity of the children of Israel, and they will pay for their crimes. This is why they refuse to write the truth that the prophet Zechariah saw a flying sickle. Their judgment is death. They preferred to write that he saw a flying book, a flying roll, or a flying scroll. Verse 4. And I will bring it forth, saith the Most High, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that swears falsely by my name, that's a liar, and it shall rest in the midst of his house, and shall consume it, and the timber of it, and the stones of it. A flying scroll, roll, or book cannot cause this type of destruction, but a flying sickle certainly can. The prophet Joel also confirmed that the sickle represents death or destruction. In this case, the judgment of wicked Gentiles, including those Gentiles who wish they were Jews. Joel chapter 4, verses 11 to 14. Joel chapter 4 is chapter 3 in the KJV. I'm reading verses 11 to 14. It says, gather yourselves together, and go in, all ye nations round about, and gather yourselves there. Let the timid become a warrior. Let them be aroused. Let all the nations go up to the valley of Josaphat, for there will I sit to judge. This is judgment day. All the Gentiles round about. Bring forth the sickles, the same sickles. Bring forth the sickles, not the scrolls, not the rolls, not the books, but the sickles, for the vintage is come. Go in, tread the grapes, for the press is full. Cause the vats to overflow, for their wickedness is multiplied. The sickles represent the death and the destruction of the wicked. Verse 14. Noises have resounded in the valley of judgment, for the day of the Most High is near in the valley of judgment. This is judgment on the Gentiles, including those who wish they were Jews. For details of how wicked Gentiles will be destroyed by the Most High, Please listen to my teaching entitled Gentiles and the Children of Lucifer. That is, Gentiles and the Children of Lucifer. What should we do if we are guilty of stealing? Ezekiel chapter 33 verses 14 to 16. Ezekiel chapter 33 verses 14 to 16 reads thus. And when I say to the ungodly, thou shalt surely die, and he shall turn from his sin, and do judgment and justice, and return the pledge, and repay that which he has robbed. If you have stolen something, repay it, give it back, give back the value of what you've stolen, and walk in the ordinances of life, so as to do no wrong. He shall surely live and shall not die. None of his sins which he has committed shall be remembered, because he has wrought judgment and righteousness. By them, meaning by judgment and righteousness, shall he live. If you are guilty of stealing, you must repay what you have stolen or robbed. The Most High promises to forgive you of your sins if you genuinely repent. The only exception to this is for the children of Lucifer, also known as the so-called white man. There is no forgiveness for their thievery. So let's learn about how the world was stolen by the children of Lucifer. Throughout the course of history, the children of Lucifer have robbed and stolen to such an extent that it is impossible for them to repay what they have robbed. Furthermore, they are so prideful and have such a sense of entitlement that they wouldn't even consider returning their stolen treasures. Naturally, according to Joel chapter 4, their judgment is death. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, Amiri Baraka was an American poet and playwright who published provocative works that highlighted the experiences and suppressed anger of Black Americans in a white-dominated society. He made a very poignant statement which sums up the truth about the children of Lucifer. It says, and I quote, "You can't steal nothing from the white man, 'cause he stole everything he's got." Again, you can't steal nothing from the white man, 'cause he stole everything he's got. End of quote. It is an undeniable fact that the so-called white man stole everything he's got. They even stole the identity of the original Romans to hide their true identity as the children of Lucifer. For details of this fact and how it fulfills the prophecy in Daniel chapter 2, please listen to my teaching entitled The Truth About the Children of Lucifer. That is, the truth about the children of Lucifer. On wfpc.sanford.uke.edu, which is the website of Duke University, there's an article entitled European Colonizers Create Wealth Through Stolen Land and Stolen Labor. It says this: in the early colonial period, there were sometimes treaties entered into or token payments made for use or purchase of native people's land, but predominantly outright theft. Outright theft enforced by violence was the method of colonial land control. That is how the children of Lucifer got what they have today, by outright theft enforced by violence. On the other hand, historyreclaimed.co.uk is a website dedicated to rewriting the history of the world in a way that hides the theft and destruction perpetrated by the children of Lucifer. It features an article entitled "The Myth of the Stolen Country." This article attempts to change the narrative of how the children of Lucifer stole the American continent. First, it states the well-known narrative, and then it presents a rhetoric that it hopes will replace the truth of what really happened. First, let's hear the narrative. And I quote, "The United States was founded by a monumental act of genocide accompanied by larceny, that means theft or robbery, on the grandest scale. Animated by racism and a sense of civilizational superiority, Columbus and his ilk sailed to the New World. They exterminated whomever they could, enslaved the rest, and intentionally spread smallpox in hopes of solving the native question. In other words, they intentionally destroyed the original people of the land that is called America. Soon afterwards, they began importing slave labor from Africa. They then built the world's richest country out of a combination of stolen land, wanton environmental destruction, and African slave labor.
They tried to get rid of us.
That was really overwhelming to kind of experience. When you talk to the young people, young Native Americans at high school, they don't necessarily think that the European settlers were settlers who saved this country. They were the ones who invaded. They were the ones who took.
So what do you think about when you think whites?
They're mean to us so much.
When we found out what the word wasichu means, which is he who takes the best meat, which is what they call white people, you can understand from that perspective, right? As the people who are, who are originally in this land. And then these invaders come in and they take, right? You can see why they called them that, and still call them that.
Now that we've heard the truth about this thievery done by the children of Lucifer, let's hear how they attempt to change the story. Quote number 2 says, "First, no matter who discovered the New World, it is inevitable that a large proportion of New World inhabitants would have died within the first few decades after first contact. This could not be further from the truth. Africans were trading with the so-called New World long before the children of Lucifer set foot on it. Yet the aboriginals of the New World were not threatened with extermination. This is because the Africans did not bring diseases like the children of Lucifer did. The Africans did not set out to destroy everyone like the children of Lucifer did. So saying that no matter who it was that so-called discovered the world that was already discovered, they would have killed everybody is not true."
Lock the doors, because what I'm about to say is going to upset some people right next here. Okay. Christopher Columbus did not discover America. Exactly. I mean, never mind the question of like how you can discover a place where the inhabitants are watching you arrive from the shore. Yeah, they weren't wearing pants. Is that what somebody said? I like that. So anyway, there were actually many other mariners before Columbus that discovered America as well. Decades earlier, even eons earlier, there were so many people that were coming across these islands and this continent. But it's only been in the last century that evidence has surfaced and continually grown to indicate that many of these pre-Columbian explorers might have come from Africa.
Had the so-called white man not set out to do what he does best, which is to steal, kill, and destroy, as written in their so-called New Testament, the original inhabitants of the land called America would still own their land to this very day. Quote number 3 says, "The idea that the Europeans stole some land which had belonged in perpetuity to any one tribe is therefore ludicrous. The children of Lucifer refused to repay the land they stole from the aboriginals of America, Australia, South Africa, and other places that they destroyed. Therefore, according to the Holy Scriptures, their judgment is death. They can claim that the idea that they stole some land is ludicrous as much as they want. We all know what they did, and they know what they did. The Most High knows what they did. And their judgment, according to the Holy Scriptures, is death." As stated earlier, their sense of superiority and entitlement makes it impossible for them to even consider returning the things they have stolen. As a result, they will be destroyed. There's an ancient saying which sums this up nicely, and I quote, "When white folks steal colored folks' stuff, it stays stolen." Again, when white folks steal colored folks' stuff, it stays stolen. End of quote. In conclusion, stealing is a terrible crime which was severely punished in ancient Israel. Also, when the Most High returns to deliver his people, he will destroy all thieves and liars. For this reason, I strongly urge every thief to repay or return what he has stolen while there is still hope. The only exception is the children of Lucifer. They will never stop stealing, and they will never return or repay what they have stolen, so they are guaranteed to be destroyed. Let's take all of the 10 Commandments very seriously, because the Most High certainly does. And with that, I say, Salam.
I am a colonizer, and the land I currently occupy is not my home. My ancestors stole this land from the indigenous cultures here through coercion and mass large-scale violence. My ancestors stole human beings of a different race and enslaved them for generations.